Yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here. We appreciate your coming back after lunch. It's been an interesting morning. We've had lots of interesting conversation here, and they're on a number and variety of topics. We appreciate you being here today, for those of you who are able to join us today, as well as those of you who are joining us on the internet. We're hopeful that if you are here today, you'll be sharing the fact that you can go on the governor's Facebook page and on the governor's website and attend these YouTube videos later with folks who aren't here today. We're hoping that if you're watching this on YouTube, that you will take the opportunity to share this with other folks as well, to tell your friends on Facebook that they should check it out, and to learn a little bit more about energy, environment, and the economy in the state of Wyoming, and to weigh in on what the priorities, what you believe the priorities are for the state of Wyoming, and where we should go in terms of energy, environment, and the economy with the energy strategy in 2016. My name is Nephi Cole. I'm a policy advisor for Governor Matt Mead in the state of Wyoming. I'm joined today by Colin McKee, also a policy advisor for Governor Matt Mead, and by Seth Wagner, our press secretary from our office in Cheyenne. So we came here today to Casper to discuss the governor's proposed for the 2016 strategy. And so to talk about what that means, proposed initiative for the energy strategy, it's probably important to just give quickly and briefly a synopsis of which meeting this is, of our 3 meetings, and where we're going. So basically, this is the 3rd meeting that we've had today. This meeting is on natural resource conservation, reclamation, and mitigation. We've had 2 other meetings previously today, and those webcasts are archived online, and they were on efficient and effective regulation. And that was the second one. The first one was on economic competitiveness, expansion, and diversification. In each case, we presented a number of proposed initiatives. We'd like to talk about what that means to be a proposed initiative. And a proposed initiative means that we've gone around, and I'll talk more about this process, throughout the state, and listen to people as they've described ideas for what they think we should be doing as a state. So these ideas, the ones that we'll be talking about today that we have talked about, represent consensus thoughts, opinions, possibilities that we could be doing in the state of Wyoming to move the state forward. And we've asked for input on those. So that's what this meeting represents. This meeting here today, these series of 4 meetings, are meetings where we are rolling out the initiatives that we have heard over the previous months, and we're asking for you now to weigh in on those initiatives. So without further ado, we're going to go to a presentation that we have, and we've shared this presentation at the start of all of our sessions. For those of you who would again like to see those presentations again, you can go to the governor.wyo.gov, which is the governor's website, to be able to view those presentations, and there are also links there under a tab, the Energy Strategy tab, to a series of opportunities for input in the form of questions that contain all those initiatives, asking you to rank those initiatives. As mentioned, these initiatives were developed in a public process. That process started really in 2013 when the governor rolled out his first energy strategy. It was based on a process of collecting public input, where we had gone out and through outreach, emails, letters, public meetings, and use of technology, we discussed with citizens throughout the state of Wyoming what they believed were the challenges facing the energy industry and environmental issues in the state of Wyoming, and what they viewed solutions to those challenges might be. So there was a lot of discussion with people about, what are we doing right, what can we do better? And from those discussions, the governor drew to the opinion that we needed to have a solid strategy for how to move forward in the state of Wyoming. And Colin, if you'll switch slides one minute. So that strategy was guided by a vision statement that was developed by the governor. That is, the Wyoming will achieve excellence in energy development, production, and stewardship of its natural resources for the highest benefit of its citizens. The vision statement that rejects the idea that you have to choose between either being leaders in energy development or having a healthy environment. And we really believe we've demonstrated in Wyoming over time, over the long term, that that's really the case. Wyoming is the #1 energy exporting state in the nation. Wyoming's number 2 industry is tourism. Wyoming has demonstrated that we are capable of helping to provide for the needs of the nation. And typically when people drive through Wyoming and they come to the first national monument, first national park, first national forest in the nation, they do so without the realization that Wyoming provides 8% of the nation's power. Wyoming is a huge contributor to the national economy, providing this basic unit of progress, which is energy. So building on that vision statement, and on the comments we received going throughout the state in 2012 and 2013, we developed what we call guiding principles. And those principles include leading in energy development, production, generation, and export, innovating and adding value to resources, being the standard bearers of responsible development, maintaining and growing an energy market share, good jobs, and a strong economy, and creating affordable, abundant, reliable power and fuel production, and finally, conserving natural resources and heritage. So these are areas that grew naturally out of that vision statement, and they're the guiding principles that went into the discussions of what should we be doing in the state of Wyoming. When we collected the information, when we talked to people, and we received comments from people and discussions, we found that when people wanted to talk about how do you achieve highest benefit for the people of the state of Wyoming, how do you achieve excellence in these areas, that their comments can basically be categorized in 4 unique themes. And those themes are the themes that moved forward as the strategic themes in the energy strategy, and they continue to be our strategic themes today. And they are also the areas where we believe the comments can be categorized today. They are first, economic competitiveness, expansion, diversification. Second, efficient and effective regulation. Third, natural resource conservation, reclamation, and mitigation. And fourth, education, innovation, and new technologies. We've discussed the first 2 strategic themes in more detail in our previous 2 conferences today. In those conferences, we presented proposed initiatives related to those specific themes. At this session, which will probably last roughly an hour, we'll be discussing the concept of natural resource conservation, reclamation, and mitigation. And within that, we're going to be talking about the things that we heard when we ran around the state and discussed energy and environment people around the state. As we went around the state, talking to the citizens of Wyoming about the things that they thought were important with regards to energy, environment, and economy, we asked that people do a few things. Number one, we asked that the discussions we have, that they be discussions that were courteous, that people interact with each other in a courteous manner, recognizing that there are a lot of different individuals in the state of Wyoming, you know, and all of those people have unique thoughts, have unique attributes. And so when we sit and talk about issues that really are important to people in the state of Wyoming, issues like our economy, issues like our environment, that we be respectful of one another in our conversations. So that was kind of a ground rule that we had. We also have the ground rule that as we identify the thing that the goal, identify the opportunity, people talk not just about what problems they perceive to exist, but about solutions that they talk about, as we like to say in our office, smart solutions. Those solutions are specific. They're things that are measurable. They're attainable. They're relevant to the state of Wyoming, and they're time-based, meaning you can define when things should be done by, you can require action, and you can measure that action. So the ideas, the concepts, the initiatives that we ask people to come up with and to discuss as we run around the state in 6 public meetings this year, we ask those ideas and those considerations that people keep that SMART concept in mind. So the initiatives that we've been presenting today in the first 2 sessions and this session, in every case, we believe these proposed initiatives are things that can be considered SMART initiatives. There's something that you could build a measurable around, and they were all proposed by citizens. So when we say proposed by citizens, I'd like to explain what that means. In 6 sessions around the state, and we'll note those locations in a few moments, roughly 50 individuals at each one of our conferences broke into facilitated discussions. And we had 4 groups, about 2 hours per group at each meeting. So if you do the math, it's a considerable amount of time spent with note takers where people were taking notes on, again, the concerns that people had and what they perceived, the issues to be and the opportunities to be for how we might address those issues. So gleaned from that information, we identified central ideas. So based on the hundreds upon hundreds of comments, we identified central points, central concepts that the groups have been talking about that they considered important, and central ideas for how people thought we might be able to deal with issues. So in that way, all of these initiatives that we're talking about today, these what we call proposed initiatives, are ideas that were initiated at an organic level in those public discussions within those meetings. So the reason that these are proposed initiatives is because, again, we have roughly 60 initiatives in front of us today with all 4 sessions in total. It's likely that for each session, somewhere between 3 and 5 initiatives will actually be selected to move forward. So this is a process of recommendations. It's a process where we have the opportunity to listen to people in the state talk about what they think is important. We believe we heard you, and this is what we believe you said. And so today, the purpose of this conference is to roll out to you what we believe you said, and to ask you to then weigh in on that. To weigh in on that by emailing us at energy.strategy@wyo.gov, to go to the governor's website, governor.wyo.gov, and to go to the energy strategy link, to click on the link, to go to the surveys, and to tell us from all these initiatives that we're proposing, which ones you think were good ideas and which ones you think were bad ideas. We're asking you to vet the ideas and thoughts of your peers. We're asking you to vet your own ideas and thoughts as they compare to each other's ideas that, again, we're bringing forth and we're hopeful to share with you today. The purpose behind this is to guide the next iteration of the energy strategy. So that brings about the question, so where are we? So we mentioned we did this in 2012, and in 2013 we released the first energy strategy. There were 45 initiatives in that first energy strategy. So we had roughly 100 come in the first time. And from those 100, from the comments that we received back from those 100, we selected 45. The governor selected 45 initiatives to move forward as his priority initiatives. Within each theme, there were a number of strategic initiatives. So 45 total. Of those, today we can tell you that we're about 77% complete on all of the initiatives that were developed during the first energy strategy. The 2013 initiatives, we have a slide in here that shows what those were. Those 45 initiatives taught us a lot. They taught us, number one, how to develop this program. It's a program that we've used not only a strategic concept, a business diagram, however you'd like to put it. It's a program that we learned in the 2013 energy strategy. We used it to develop the water strategy last year, and we're using it again. So that program allows us to give a smart initiative to an agency director, and then to ask those agencies to help us develop milestones within that initiative. Those milestones then, within each initiative, become an implementation plan, and that implementation plan ultimately is posted online. So for all the 2013 initiatives, if you're interested in where we're at, you can go to energy.wyo.gov, and you can click on every initiative that we've been working on since 2013, and you can see where we're at. You can see which milestones we've completed. There's a fuel gauge there that is attached to the milestones. It's attached to the performance of agencies that allows you to then to find out where we're at with every given initiative at each phase with each initiative. So the process for developing the 2013 and today, and that process begins with a public outreach effort, and that we undertook that earlier this summer, and a series of public meetings throughout the state. We'll talk about those locations in a moment. We compiled the ideas, we compiled the thoughts, the notes, the comments we received at those meetings. And then today you're here with us as we're rolling out the proposed initiatives for the new energy strategy. We'll have a 30-day comment period. We're going to ask everyone to weigh in during that 30-day comment period and to provide input and feedback. And again, this is an advisory opportunity. It's not compulsory. By that, what I mean by that is this isn't a voting endeavor where we select initiatives based on the highest number of votes. What it is it gives an opportunity for us to provide the governor with the initiatives that were suggested at the meetings, and then to give him immediate feedback on what people thought about those initiatives, what different groups thought about those initiatives, how those initiatives might interplay one with another. And in addition to the results from the surveys that are available on the governor's website, governor.wyo.gov, we reach out to key groups, we reach out to agency leaders, we reach out to people who will be implementing initiatives, and we ask them to help us identify the true scope of an initiative. And by scope, I mean each initiative is going to have different challenges. It's going to have different budgets. There are going to be different initiatives that affect agencies in different ways. Some will have challenges with feasibility, some will be more practical. And so all of those considerations and comments and thoughts go in and are provided to the governor as he will ultimately select the specific initiatives that make up the 2060 energy strategy. And the feedback that we receive from you and that we're asking you to provide us will be a huge part of helping us make those decisions. So I'd like to talk a little bit more about the outreach we've done before we get into the specific initiatives, so that you'll understand where these came from. We did 6 formal listening sessions throughout the state. We did 1 in Gillette, 1 in Casper, 1 in Cody, 1 in Jackson, 1 in Rock Springs, and 1 in Cheyenne. Each of these listening sessions was hosted in a different public venue by a different type of interest group. So for example, agricultural groups, non-governmental organizations, county commissioners, and the like. These are all types of groups that hosted meetings. Those meetings were all open to the public. The agenda at every meeting was identical. So when we started these meetings, everyone had the same presentations, everyone had the same opportunities for comments, the same opportunities to provide thought. In every case, we provided the same number of facilitators and moved people into groups to discuss key issues in each case in the same way. So we could maintain integrity in that process as we went throughout the state talking to people. And so that no matter where you lived, even if your specified interest group wasn't necessarily in a given community, you could still come and still participate in what became very solid discussions throughout the state. So we had a lot of additional opportunities to engage on a less formal basis, and hundreds of attendees attended all of those sessions, and we had many hundreds of comments. So with that, I'd like to talk a little bit about the third theme in the governor's energy strategy, the theme of conservation, reclamation, and mitigation. As mentioned, we've covered 2 other themes here today already, and those archives are available online. If you're interested in what we did in 2013, those archives are also available online. So you can go back and see what we did in 2013, how we did the same process then. You can also see the energy strategy session is, I believe, still archived on YouTube as well to kind of see where we've come since then and how we've done this since then. When we went around the state, there was a significant amount of comment on all of these issues. And we want to share with you a little bit of the comment that we had on issues related to natural resource conservation, reclamation, and mitigation. In terms of reclamation, one of the respondents said, cooperative approaches need to be identified between landowners, industry, and government. So this was a common concept we heard around the state, this concept of needing to have communication, collaboration where appropriate between different interests, different levels of government, private landowners on reclamation. The next comment we have, this is a quote, mining process is state-of-the-art and reclamation. So there were a lot of people that said, we do it best in the state of Wyoming. We're all world class. We have great reclamation. There's a lot of discussion about, how do we share that? Do we educate people on that? How do we highlight it? So that was a common point. With relation to water, this comment, look at the use of fracking water for agricultural purposes. So this is one of many comments related to water, the importance of water, and how water that is used in industrial process might be either reclaimed or reused, repurposed for a different beneficial use after some other type of process. With regards to mitigation, one of the comments, the state should encourage conservation mitigation banks. So conservation mitigation banks. So the concept of no net loss of habitat or no net loss of species. This was a very common theme throughout the state of Wyoming as people emphasize the importance and the work that we've done on conservation in the past, the thought that we needed to make sure that we had mechanisms for continuing to do that. Offsite mitigation is reasonable. This is another comment that was provided in one of those meetings, the concern that whatever is being done to make sure that we do it right, that there be appropriate levels of input and oversight. On endangered species, we heard endangered species. What direction does the energy strategy go if sage-grouse gets listed? I'm very happy to say that we had after making this presentation and after these sessions, we were able to avoid a listing of the greater sage-grouse in the state of Wyoming. We know that Dan Ash, that Sally Jewell from the Department of Interior and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service were extremely positive. We're joined by 4 governors, including our governor, Governor Meade, in the leadership position, Governor Hickenlooper, Governor Sandoval, and Governor Bullock, to talk about the great success that has been the effort, the collaborative effort between state, government, private individuals to conserve the greater sage-grouse, and that a listing was not warranted. So those are some things that we've learned since those sessions. And we believe that the work that went on developing the first energy strategy in 2013 helped lay the groundwork for where we are today moving forward. Without further ado, we're going to start talking about the proposed initiatives of theme 3. And again, these are proposed initiatives because they were brought out of public meetings, group discussions, and they represent central consensus developing ideas for what we could do to address natural resource issues moving forward in this specific area, natural resource conservation, reclamation, and mitigation. These are all proposed initiatives, and we're asking for feedback on those initiatives. From the initiatives that you see in front of you today, that you've heard about today, only a small number of those initiatives are likely to move forward in the final energy strategy. So we're asking you to help us vet and rank these initiatives. With that, this is the first proposed initiative that came to us. It's the Habitat Bank Investment No Net Loss Initiative. And this initiative is to develop a mechanism that encourages permanent developments of any type in sage-grouse steppe ecosystems to develop or purchase mitigation offsets to ameliorate lost habitat, leveraging and utilizing certified banks and permanent easements. So this initiative really centers on that idea of if disturbance occurs, there needs to be a relevant offset, and that offset needs to be done in a way that can utilize a process, that can utilize certification to make sure that there is a guarantee to the state of Wyoming that we are mitigating appropriately. So that is initiative number 1, Habitat Bank Investment No Net Loss Initiative. If you'd like to weigh in on that initiative, please go to the governor's website, governor.wyo.gov, send us an email, and please at energy.strategy@wyo.gov. And then, again, please go to the energy tab, the energy strategy tab within the governor's website, and weigh in on these initiatives in our surveys. Colin?
You want me to read this one?
Mm-hmm.
The second proposed initiative that we had under theme 3, we've titled Predator Initiative. And this one is ecosystem management requires development of clear objectives that incorporate controls of both predator and prey. This initiative will develop enhanced predator programs that manage predators and balanced sustainably with prey base, including livestock. The approach must recognize multiple uses, key species, and adaptive management, recognizing declines in prey base, including wildlife and livestock within given habitats, requires requisite management and reductions of the full range of dependent predatory species within an ecosystem.
So this initiative, there's a lot of discussion, specifically in one of our meetings, about the need to make sure that we had a handle not only on existing species and how development affects those species, but also an acknowledgement that as you have threats to one species, changes in environment, changes in makeup, you need to be list. And that means, of course, looking not only at traditional game species, but also at their relationship with predators. And so that's where this initiative came from, and we hope that you will weigh in on it. Again, these are initiatives that were proposed within the public listening sessions that we're asking you to weigh in on, and tell us what you do forward. The way to do that, go to the governor's website or energy.wyo.gov. energy.strategy@wyo.gov to provide an email to us. The next initiative that was suggested, again, follows the same theme within natural resource conservation, reclamation, and mitigation of the need to make sure that we're considering all of the impacts to any type of development. This is the Wind Power Raptor Initiative. I will read the initiative. It's Initiative 3, and it is the Sage-Grouse Core Area Strategy resulted in a historic conservation effort. Building on the lessons learned, management plans for other key species can be developed. This initiative would develop recommendations or requirements for raptor habitat mitigation efforts and offsets for wind projects developed within Wyoming. So that is the Wind Power Raptor Initiative. There's been a lot of very robust and good discussion throughout the state of Wyoming on different types of mitigation. At what level? By that I mean you look at purely habitat, do you look at species specific, do you look at keystone species? All these questions are questions that have come up, and we appreciate it if you weigh in on this initiative and the others in front of you and let us know what you think. So that is number 3, the Wind Power Raptor Initiative. Initiative number 4. So this is an initiative that was shared with us at another meeting, and it was based on, again, sage-grouse. I'm concerned about sage-grouse numbers. I'll just read the initiative. Sage-grouse captive. The initiative is this. Successful captive breeding programs for game birds have been part of programs within the game fish for some time. Recognizing that sage-grouse are a game bird, this initiative would result in Wyoming game fish developing a captive breeding and stocking program for grouse. So that is the initiative. This initiative is a great opportunity for us to mention again that as we realize that there are different challenges to each initiative, and all these initiatives need people to weigh in to share with us whether you think this initiative is appropriate of looking at it or not. Another issue with all initiatives is there's a plausibility of initiatives, there's scientific reality of initiatives, there's capacity within agencies, and all these things are things that we'll look at and ultimately selecting an initiative to move forward. So that is the proposed sage-grouse captive breeding program initiative. The next initiative, initiative number 5, is the Green. I'm going to give you number 6, Tom.
Sure. No, that's good.
So the Green Carbon Initiative. Initiative number 5, anthropogenic biomass production in Wyoming. 240 carbon by roughly 12 million tons. Wetlands globally are estimated to sequester over 300 billion tons of carbon dioxide. This initiative would develop a suggested carbon banking approach for quantifying sequestration in natural green projects like wetland development and grassland augmentation. So this initiative, as most are aware, there's much concern, both market-wise and otherwise, about opportunities and challenges related to carbon. And this initiative was suggesting that was suggesting the importance of looking at quantifying how green programs such as wetland banking, such as rangeland work can sequester green carbon, is the term that was used here, in a carbon banking type approach to help determine offsets with relation to carbon. So that is the number 5 initiative, the Green Carbon Initiative. If you'd like to weigh in on that initiative, please go online, governor.wyo.gov, and go to the energy strategy theme. And this would be the 3rd questionnaire, which is related to conservation, reclamation, mitigation. And please go in there and rank the initiatives in this section. We appreciate it very much.
Thanks, Stefan. The 6th proposed initiative under this theme is titled the Reclamation Education Initiative. This initiative would result in greater education with regards to how reclamation is done effectively in Wyoming. Now, as you can see, we don't. This initiative is not filled out quite as much as the others. This was something that, as all of the comments from around the state that were received, as those were being compiled and distilled, there was actually quite a bit of discussion about the need for the state to do any number of different types of education on both the energy front and the environmental reclamation mitigation side. And in theme 4, we do cover a few things that involve different ways the state could educate or market or conduct outreach with regards to energy and environment. But this is one that we felt fit pretty well under the 3rd theme. But you know, as Nephi has discussed a few times, we're looking for what we call SMART initiatives, and we may not have had such a clear goal or outcome with what was being expected with this initiative, but it was evident that folks around the state did talk about providing more opportunities to educate folks on what we do, what our standards of reclamation are, and things along those sorts. So this is one where it's really great that we're having this opportunity for additional public comment on the back end here. So as folks are reading through these initiatives, you can perhaps provide us a little bit more clarity and direction on what it is exactly you'd like to see with this, and we can get a little bit more full picture.
Thank you very much, Colin. The next initiative, I think, is close to a lot of people's hearts. I think there's a lot of discussion going throughout the state, and the next several initiatives will kind of highlight this of land management. And most of those discussions centered on 2 things. Number 1, frustration with how some land is managed, and number 2, the importance of maintaining access to lands for recreational purposes. It was and recreational purposes probably sells it short for multi-use. So no matter which working group you're talking about, which group, the consensus is going throughout the state, people want to be able to use lands. It's part of, I think, it was evident why people love Wyoming. They appreciate the opportunity for the open spaces in this lands. They appreciate the opportunity they provide both economically and recreationally. So this initiative is number 7, the Public-Private Recreational Land Access Improvement Program. This initiative would result in the development of a coordinated partnership between industries, organizations, nations, in developing priorities and funds that could be used to increase public access to lands for outdoor recreation. So it's a fairly straightforward initiative. It's initiative number 7 in Natural Resource Conservation Committee. We believe it's priority government for. We've asked them to want to sign and weigh in on it.
Okay. The next proposed initiative that we have is titled State Lands Recreational Management Initiative. This one is opponents of state management of federal lands often note the differences in recreational opportunities and use mandates. This initiative would result in analysis and recommendations for changes in state land use protocols that would evaluate the economic value of outdoor recreational opportunities on state lands, identify opportunities to increase beneficial outdoor recreation on those lands, suggest methods to monetize uses, and maintain or increase future value of those lands.
Thank you, Colin. And there's a lot of discussion on that initiative in relation to how there's some differences in the paradigm of how state lands are managed based on the statutory responsibility of state lands, and how a federal land mass might be managed, and how changes in management might have a change in the multi-use aspects of those lands. So that's where the map comes out of those discussions about a need to realize and take a look at those differences in management paradigms and to reconcile those differences as people talked about, and to make that part of the conversation as people talk about land management decisions in the West. The next initiative is Initiative 9. It is a collaborative public-private partnership for state management of invasive species on federal lands. And this was an initiative that got a lot of traction and a lot of discussion, this concept. At one particular meeting especially, but the thought was, as we look at management opportunities, industry originally came up with this concept. And so a member of industry in talking about the importance of habitat and the importance of making sure that wildlife habitat is appropriately cared for, that natural resources are managed to protect wildlife. There are concerns that that was, that was important, and that this was an area where there was opportunity for collaboration between state government, between the federal government, and between private individuals, specifically, and I believe we'll talk about to control invasive species. So here's the initiative. This initiative would develop a pilot program where the state of Wyoming, through agreement, works with a federal agency such as the BLM to aggressively employ a suite of management actions to improve areas with cheatgrass infestation. As a lead, Wyoming would utilize a public-private partnership approach with extractive and agricultural interests to maximize the flexibility and accessibility of tools for the control of invasive species, including flexible grazing management, targeted spraying by user groups, education, and other means. So the concept behind this initiative was, again, with robust discussion, that if there were an opportunity to put the boots on the ground with the correct knowledge, if you utilize all your resources, including targeted spraying by industry, including grazing at the right time of year to remove invasives such as cheatgrass with appropriate rest at other times, that you would have a much greater capacity to control an invasive species on a given area. So requiring a level of flexibility that may not be readily apparent and accessible to a federal by itself. This idea for a collaborative public-private partnership kind of a test case to see if we can figure out how to do this better to make sure that we protect habitat in the long run. So that's Initiative 9, the Collaborative Public-Private Partnership for State Management of Invasive Species on Federal Lands. If you believe that that's a good initiative, that it should move forward, we'd ask you to weigh in at governor.wyo.gov under the Enter Strategy tab to give this the ranking we feel is appropriate on the third form, and or to send us an email at energy.strategy@wyo.gov. And I'll do the last one.
Yeah.
So the last initiative in this section is the Climate Change Habitat Mitigation Group. So there's a lot of discussion throughout the state of Wyoming on the need to recognize that their environmental changes require us to have a proactive approach to making sure that we're dealing with our issues appropriately. So I'm going to read this initiative. It's to develop a high-level group similar to the Sagebrush Implementation Team, or SIGIT, that acts as in an advisory capacity to identify mitigation needs, opportunities, and priorities for dealing with climate change through on-the-ground habitat improvement projects and being. So the concept behind this, there may be significant argument over the causes of and timing of what occurs in the natural world, including things like climate change. But what everyone could agree on was the need to mitigate appropriately, to take measures to make sure that Wyoming is protecting its interests in terms of people, in terms of wildlife, to make sure that we are having discussions about what are the management practices that we can employ to actually make a difference on the ground, and to make sure that we're protecting Wyoming and having the highest benefit in Wyoming for the future. So that is the initiative.
And I do remember on when this was being discussed that there had been some communities in Wyoming that have done a similar assessment of just their area, and they found the process effective, and so it was a recommendation that they suggested that the state go through a similar process.
So again, these meetings have been very productive for us. We appreciate it. One of the things that we'd like we very much appreciate it when you see this, if you're sitting here today or watching it, that you share it. We believe very strongly that this is an appropriate process, that it's important for government to function appropriately, to talk to people, and that people weigh in, and that people then tell you what they think, and that inform makers make the best. And so the reason that we've been doing this process, and we'll continue to do this process, it's an ongoing effort to ask people to weigh in and shape the energy policy for 2016. So with that, I'm going to turn over to Colin for next steps.
All right. So, so far today, this morning, we talked through theme 1, which was economic competitiveness, expansion, and diversification. We talked through the proposed initiatives offered in Theme 2, Efficient and Effective Regulation. This afternoon, we're just wrapping up Theme 3, which is Natural Resource Conservation, Reclamation, and Mitigation. And at 3 o'clock, we will start discussion on Theme 4, which is Education, Innovation, and New Technologies. We do have, I think that is our the theme with the most initiatives in it, so we'll do a little longer. But so we will finish the last presentation today on the final theme. After that, there will be a opportunity for the public to provide both comments and ranking of all the initiatives that we've discussed today. From there, we will vet some portions of these initiatives with state agencies to see what the budget considerations and time considerations would be for them. And then we will present the initiatives to the governor, who will make the final selection for what will be included in the 2016 energy strategy. So on the slide right now, again, you can go to the governor's website at governor.wyo.gov for the rankings, and you can submit written comments at energy.strategy@wyo.gov. And with that, we thank you very much, and we'll see you in a little bit for Theme 4.
Thank you very much.